There's a story waiting in the shadows, and we are going to bring it to life. The Umbral Society is a digital junk journal kit divided into 10 guided crafting sessions, with each one adding a new part of the story. This follow up to Cursed Antiquities brings back Agent Hale and introduces a new agent, Rowan Kitteridge. We get to experience the story through their reports as they investigate the Umbral Society, and at the same time, look for clues as to the whereabouts of Walter Ashcroft. But this story comes with a twist. Tucked away under the secret bottom is Walter Ashcroft's side of the story. While the agents are looking for him, he's pursuing his own ambitious plans from a secret location. Just like Cursed Antiquities, this kit is very beginner friendly, and I am with you every step of the way with full video instructions. I'll also treat each part of this project as a separate crafting session, so you can use the timestamps on this video to find exactly what you want to work on when you're ready to work on it. This is perfect for both the occasional crafter or a weekend crafting spree. The Umbral Society does continue the story told in Cursed Antiquities, so I recommend crafting that kit first. You can find both of these digital kits for sale in my Etsy shop. All you need to craft along with me is a color printer, paper, cardstock, glue, and a few other basic supplies. I do keep my stories family friendly, but this story does contain a couple of deaths of a non-graphic nature. So let's go over the supplies that you're going to need to craft this box kit. For paper, I am using 110 pound 199 GSM cardstock. I also use 32 pound 120 GSM paper. This paper is a little thicker than your average copy paper, but it does not really wrinkle when you glue it, and it holds up to handling a lot better. So your project is going to last better if you use this versus thin copy paper. You're going to need a pair of scissors to cut everything out. A paper trimmer like this one is also helpful if you have it, but if not, scissors will do just fine. For glue, you're going to need a liquid glue with a fine point. I like Beacon Fabri-Tac, but any glue that you prefer is fine as long as you have a fine point and can make a thin line of glue. You may also like to use an optional glue stick. This is great for some of the larger panels we'll need to glue down. And I like Uhu for my glue stick, but you, again, can use any glue stick that you prefer. Throughout this tutorial, you will see me use the liquid glue exclusively, and that's just because it's a little faster and it will make a little bit less of a mess on my work surface. I recommend using a bone folder to firm up all of your creases. However, if you don't have one, you can use your thumbnail or the back of your scissors. And I also recommend a scoreboard. This is going to make folding a little faster. You can score things on here and then give them a quicker fold. And as a bonus, it does come also with a bone folder, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. So if you don't have one of these, I totally recommend getting one. A couple of optional items I'll be using are these little Tim Holtz binder clips, and they're just these itty bitty tiny little clips. I'm using one just to hold some journal entries together. You can skip this entirely and use something else or not clip them together at all. They will have a container that they go in. So that is optional and up to you. And I also am going to use 8 Velcro dots. These are optional as well, but they add a fun interactive element to one of our pages. The last thing I want to talk about is vintage photo distress ink. If you add this to the edges of your pages, it does make everything look more finished. I will be using this on everything, but you can totally skip this step if you want to. Printing these pages is pretty straightforward. Each page comes with instructions at the top. It's going to tell you the paper type, what project, what part of the project series it's for, and if anything needs to be printed on the reverse side. So for example, this page needs to be printed on paper. It's for part 4 of our project series, and you have the option of printing backer paper 1 on the reverse. Some pages will be optional, some will not, so make sure you pay attention to that. And I will go over all of the backer papers and the paper and the cardstock at the start of every single part. So here's another example. This one is on cardstock. It's for part 1, and there are no instructions for the back, so you don't need to print anything on the back. I am going to go over all of this information as well as the supplies you need at the beginning of each one of the 10 parts of this project. That way, if you take a long break, you can jump right back in without having to remember anything. I do recommend watching the introduction for each part before printing and cutting out the pages that you're going to be using. I also have a quick note about cutting machines. PNGs are provided, but please be sure to use a machine or a method that allows you to print and cut at full page size. Cricut Print and Cut shrinks all of the pieces and can cause things to scale differently. I recommend using a full page workaround if printing and cutting with Cricut. If you're cutting by hand and are nervous about some of the more detailed pieces, then check out my fussy cutting tutorial where I go over the basics and work you up to creating more complex double-sided fussy cuts. Well, I think we've covered everything and we're ready to join our agents and our villain in the Umbral Society. Every story has two sides, and we're going to build a box that holds both of them. The top portion of this box will be dedicated to our BEA agents, Hale and Kitteridge. Their story will be told through a neat stack of file folders filled with details about the case. However, removing the secret bottom of the box reveals Walter's side of the story. This is told through loose journal entries and organized research. The lid of the box also features a map of Marrowhaven, which we will be updating with new locations as the story unfolds. There are 16 pages in this project. All of them are on cardstock, none of them are on paper, and there's also no backer paper in this project, so nothing needs to be printed on the reverse side. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 1. For supplies, you're going to need scissors to cut everything out, liquid glue with a fine point, and your optional glue stick. I've used vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. And I also use a bone folder to smooth everything out, and I used my scoreboard to make all of my creases. These are optional, and you can use them if you want to. So I know there's a lot of pieces here, and we are going to start with just the box lid. So I'm going to move everything else out of the way. You're going to need the map of Marrowhaven, the cover, the Umbral Society cover, and then the four pieces, they have this blue pattern with the runes and the key. And you've got too short and too long for that. So I'm going to put my two panels off to the side and let's talk about the folds on these. These two longer panels have two folds. So there is a fold here along the blue panel at the bottom, and then again here at the top. I guess top and bottom are subjective. You're going to fold right along this line between the blue and the key pattern on both sides. Do not fold this here. This is not a fold line. This is just a little extra print so that when you put the cover onto the box, you won't have any white showing around the edges. I'm going to flip this over and show you when you fold. I recommend folding the tab first and then folding the box over, and then just make sure everything kind of folds nice and flat. If you're getting any buckling here, adjust your creases a little bit so that everything can fold down nice and flat. You'll see I've got some distress ink along here. I like to put distress ink along all of my tabs. I was pretty generous with this. And this is because when the box goes together, this little tiny sliver of white can show. So this just gives you a nicer finished box. It's not entirely necessary. I've also inked my other creases. That's just so you can see them on camera easier. So you don't have to do this crease here. All of the tabs have angled sides. So anything with a little angle on the side and not squared off, that's where the ink goes along the crease. So we have our two creases for the long panels, and then for the short panels, there are four. Again, right along that blue box, not along here. We're going to not crease there. And then you want to fold those tabs over, the little brown tabs. And again, I've inked along the three tabs here. And then this is, you don't have to ink there. That's just for show and tell purposes. Once your short panels are folded and ready to go, we're going to actually glue that key pattern panel, the squared off one, down to the back of the blue panel. So I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac. You can use your glue stick if you want to. And I'm just going to put a nice scribble there and press it down. And I'm going to repeat that for the other one. Give that a good press. And now let's lay everything out. I do mark these with positions. If you mix up two pieces, it's fine. Everything is basically the same. This is just for organizational purposes. So box lid, short side panel, bottom side, that is going to go back side up to the bottom. This one says top side. We're going to place that up here. And then we have our right and left panels, and those will go to the right and left. And then we're going to grab our map. The map of Marrowhaven. Now it can go this way, it can go this way. There is not a correct direction. I'm going to put mine this way because that's what my gut is telling me. And we're going to glue the tabs. You slide this down. We're going to glue these large tabs just underneath this panel all the way around. So I'm going to slide these out of the way. It's the top short side. I'm going to put some glue along here. I'll place this panel right on top. I'm going to fold it up and over and then all the way flat. And then give this a good smooth with my bone folder. And you want to make sure you fold it all the way flat. This is going to make sure your lid fits on the bottom of the box properly. If you don't fold all the way over and you stop at 90 degrees, things might be a little too tight. I'm going to repeat that for the other short side, the bottom. Just getting some glue on there, and I'm going to pop a little extra glue under here that has come up on me. And then place my panel on the tab and fold all the way over. Now I'm going to go back to my starting position. You can always check and see where it says top if you want to keep it kind of turned the correct way. There's not really a right or wrong here. And we're going to repeat that for the long panels. So I'm going to glue the left panel right underneath. These are still open. We're going to have to fold those over and kind of capture those tabs here in a minute. So glue along this tab. Making sure that I'm centered up right and left with my print here. And I'm going to fold over and then over again and give that a crease. And then turn, and I'm going to attach the last long side. Same thing, just slide that right under the panel. Make sure everything is butted right up into that crease and then fold all the way over. And mine looks like it just got off just a little, so I'm going to pull, slide, and then check that again. So now we have something that looks like this. Now we're going to connect all of these sides. So starting with the short sides, let's stand those up to a 90-degree angle and then fold those tabs in so that they're also at 90-degree angles. So we're forming the corners of our box, and the sharper you get these, the sharper your box is going to look. I'm going to give those a nice crease. Stand those back up, 90 degrees. And then we're just going to put glue on one panel and then up the sides, and then we're going to do a little flip over maneuver. So I've got my glue. I'm going to glue this entire panel here. And then just on the ends of the other panel. I've got a little bent there. I'm going to fix that. This glue here is going to help capture those tabs. So I'm going to hold these up, sides up at 90 degrees, up and over. And then I'm going to give it just a light press. And then I'm going to check those corners and make sure those tabs are pushed in as far as they will go to get a nice sharp corner. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And then same thing on this side. Push that corner in nice and neat. And then I'm going to stand this up and grab my bone folder and smooth everything out and firm up that crease. And then let's repeat that for the other side. So glue on one panel. Glue up the sides of the other panel. And then we're just going to fold over. And then check those corners. Push in at the corner. push in here, nice and tight. This one has come out a little bit, so I'm going to push that in again. So we'll make sure it doesn't get sneaky on you and slide out. And then smooth everything down. Now all we have left to do is to put the top on the box. And you can see top, if you want it to be oriented a certain way. Again, this doesn't really have a right direction. So if you get turned or whatever, not a big deal on this one. And this is just going to glue right on top. I recommend making sure the corners especially and all of the edges are glued down well, because this, if it's a box, it's going to go into storage maybe. They might get stacked with other things. And when things slide around, they can catch on the edges and the corners. So making sure those are glued down really well will make this last longer. So I'm going around the edges of mine. And then I'm just doing a quick little swoosh of glue down the middle. And I'm going to center this up on the lid. And I'll flip it over and give it a smooth. And now we have our finished lid. Next, we're going to build the box bottom. So you have these two panels with the symbols on them. We have 2 short pieces with a similar vibe, and then 2 long pieces. Same thing. So I'm going to set those big panels to the side. We'll go over the folds really quickly. You're going to fold on either side of this lighter brown panel. Again, not along this crease here for the large ones, and then for the small ones, again, all around these 4 sides around this light panel. And then we're going to glue this one down. Again, make sure things kind of fold nice and flat. So I like to get it down nice and flat and then give that another crease just to kind of adjust things. That way your box will go together just a little smoother if you do this. Same thing for the long ones. And then with these short sides, we need to glue that panel down. So that is the full wood panel. It's going to glue down to the lighter wood panel. And then we'll repeat that with the second one. There we go. And we're going to glue all of these to the inside of the box, which is actually the darker one. You can switch these if you want this to be the inside and you want this to be the outside. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. I've kind of designed this so it's all dark and moody in there. But if you'd like to have kind of this contrasting bit, then you can do that instead. So let's organize our pieces: top, bottom, right and left, just for fun. Again, these are interchangeable pieces, so don't worry if you mix something up. And then we're going to just start gluing these on. And again, no correct orientation on these, no up and down. And just gluing this tab really well. And make sure everything is centered up. Line up that left and right. And then I'm going to fold that over. Flip and do the other side. I know this is a little dark and a little hard to see, but that's why we did the lid first. Every time I think about changing my background, I realize that if I change it to something lighter or something medium, then I'll just run into the same problem with something else. Something else won't show up. So I just stick with the darker background. So I'm just lining that up, left and right, fold that over, give it a smooth, and then let's attach those sides. Glue on the big tab. And then centering this up left and right. I'm going to make sure I have that far enough in and fold over. The folding over kind of adjusts things, so you can make it nice and tight up into that corner. And then when you do the fold over, it kind of pushes things into the correct position. And same thing on this last one. And again, making sure that left and right is lined up well. And smoothing it down. Now we just have to do our little fold over trick. So standing these up, folding these tabs in. Again, I realize this is kind of dark on dark on dark with the camera, but this is the same process we did with the lid. And I'm just sharpening these creases up so I can have nice sharp corners on my box. Glue on one panel, making sure I have glue along where the tabs go. And then glue along both sides of the other panel. Stand these up and flip over. I'm just gonna lightly touch everything into place and then check my corner. So I'm pushing that in and then squeezing the glue into place. And then same thing over here, push it in, give it a little pinch, and then smooth everything down. And then I usually check my corners one more time after I smooth, because I've had things kind of shift out of position before. And then we're going to repeat that on the other side. Glue one panel, and then glue up the side of the other. And then we will fold that over, check our corners, make sure everything is nice and tight. And smooth it down. And now we have a nice dark, moody box. Or if you decided to go with this panel instead, you have a lighter bottom. That is up to you. I like the dark, moody feel of this. So let's flip it over. And I've got my top again, top and bottom on this. Doesn't matter too much, it's just to keep us organized. And then I'm going to glue this panel on. Make sure your glue goes all the way to those corners and edges. There we go. And then a good scribble in the middle. And I'm going to pop that into place. And then I'll flip it and rub from the other side. And there is the bottom of our box. Now I'm going to go ahead and just check the fit on everything. Pop that top on and everything looks good. And then I'm going to take these apart so that they can dry a little more while we work on the other pieces for the box. Next, let's build the secret bottom of the box. There are just 3 panels for this. However, if your cardstock is a little lighter than mine, I know sometimes you can't get exactly what I use. I would print an extra one of these kind of support pieces. It's just tan on one side, plain on the other, and put an extra one inside this little sandwich we're going to make. So we have our 2 desks, one for our agents and one for Walter. And we're just going to glue these into a nice sturdy pile, make a sandwich. So I'm going to put glue on this support piece and making sure I get all around the edges well, so this is going to hold up, while simultaneously not getting glue all over my workspace. And then get a good layer of glue in here. If you're using liquid glue, smoothing it out is probably a good idea. For video purposes, I'm just going to scribble it on there. And then you can take either one of these printed panels and just sandwich it on top. And I like to just kind of tap it and get those edges lined up before I press everything down. There we go. And then flip it over. This is where you'll add an extra support piece if you want to. I'm going to go with just the one. This is going to be supported with side supports, and then all of Walter's things in the bottom of the box will also support this panel. So I tried to build in a lot of extra support so we weren't just relying on this layer of cardboard to hold everything on top. And got Walter's side here. Again, I'm just going to line this up as best I can using my work surface to kind of put it in place. If you've cut by hand, things might not line up perfectly. That's okay. I'm going to make sure I didn't get glue all over everything. And now I have something that looks like this. If you have white poking out, then don't worry about it. You can use a little distress ink if you want around the edges, if that's something that you're using. That'll clean it right up. I did ink all of those pieces before putting them together, but you can see I still have a little bit of white peeking out here and there. So once this is dry, I'll probably go back in and ink some of those edges again. So now we have like a flippy desk situation, and I'm going to put this to the side to dry really well. Next, let's talk about the supports that are going to go inside of the box, and they look like this. They're very long, skinny pieces of cardstock. And we have a few folds we need to make on these. So there's kind of this bluish gray wood pattern and then our distressed wood pattern. And that is going to fold, you're going to fold on either side of that blue gray wood. And then we have just some tan panels. You can see this is the same size as that. So we're going to fold along here and here. And this whole thing is going to fold up to make a little rectangle. So we have this kind of long support piece like this. So you're going to fold both of these. And then on the panel that says glue, we're going to put some glue all along there. And then lay that wood panel on top of it. And then I'm just going to kind of adjust that. And then you might need to take and put like your bone folder or your scissors, maybe get a little pressure in there just to kind of touch that into place, but it should be okay. You don't want to stretch out that rectangle by putting your finger in there too much. And then try to line it up along here. It's no big deal if it's not perfect. This is the bottom. This is where it is going to go into the box. So same thing on this one. Do all of those folds. Make sure it's folded and can go into this little rectangle shape. And then glue along the glue tab. And then just overlap those pieces. So we've got two of these assembled, like so. And we're going to bring our box bottom over, and these are going to insert, and I'm going to flip it so you can kind of see the white side. These are going to insert so that the colored sides are up. So they will go like this, that blue-gray on top, this dark matching wood on the bottom, and it's going to go in here, and that makes a little ledge for our secret bottom to sit on. We're going to have one of these on each side. So again, I know this is very dark and moody and everything kind of blends in, but I really wanted to set the mood with this. So the glue is going to go on the tan panels, not the wood panels. And you're going to put glue on the large side, and then I'm just going to run a quick bead on the bottom. And then those are what is going to glue to the inside of the box like this. And then I'm just going to, I saw I had a little bit of loose panel there, so I'm just going to kind of give everything a press. But once this dries, it should be pretty sturdy. And then again, glue on those tan areas, and we'll insert the support on the other side. There we go. We've got the dark gray, bluish gray up, and then that distressed wood out. And press everything into place. Make sure it's snugged into that corner really nicely. And then if you want, if your bottom is dry, mine is still kind of drying. It feels soft, but you can see that kind of just plops down in there, and then you can lift it out again. So I'm going to let that dry some more, set this to the side to dry, and we have one last piece, this little tray. And this goes together very similarly to the box. We've got an inside and an outside. We have 2 long sides and 2 short sides. Again, these are all interchangeable. We've got creases on either side. We've got a brown tab. There's no overlap print on this one. So brown tab, decorative wood, distressed wood. And you're just going to fold like I did before. Make sure it's kind of folding flat and firm that up. Same thing with the other one, so that we have that decorative bit on the outside, and then this one, same thing, but with tabs on the sides. So like so, those 4 folds. And again, I have inked the inside along my tabs on all of my pieces. And then these other creases are just so you can see them better. So we switched things up a little bit, and the tabs are on the long side this time. So that is where we're going to glue down our panel. So I'm putting glue on that center panel, and then I'm folding over the wood print panel. And same thing for the other long one. Glue on the center and fold over that wood print. And I've got my inside, and I'm just gonna kind of arrange these around. I'm gonna hold on to this one over here so it's not in my way. We've got our tab. That's just the plain brown tab. We're gonna start gluing these brown tabs underneath the bottom. So glue on my tab. And we're gonna line this up left and right and do the little fold over. And then turn, and same thing on the other end. Glue on that tab, the brown tab. And give it a little fold over. Now these can be just a little tighter because we don't have a lid that's going on top of this box. So as long as you can fold this up at a 90-degree angle and have everything sit nicely, it's okay if this is kind of really tight up into that corner. So we're not worried about fitting another piece against it. Now we've got our long sides. Again, glue on that big tab. And we're going to center it up. And I'm going to go ahead and fold those little tabs in, just so they're not in the way. And then same thing on this last one. My glue is wanting to pop up on me today. There we go. And get that centered. All right, now same thing that we did on the other one. We're going to fold those tabs to 90-degree angles and stand these up. And then on here, one panel gets glue all over, and the other panel gets glue on the ends. And then we're going to stand up our sides, make sure our tabs are in at 90 degrees, and then go up and over. Oops. And then check our corners, push those in. Make sure everything is nice and neat. And then we're going to give that a good crease. Turn to the other side. And again, glue on one panel, up the sides. Push those tabs in and then fold over, and then check your corners. Oops, mine jumped right out of there. Pinch, 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 and there we go. Now we have this little tray, and we just have to put the bottom on it. So we're same thing as our bigger box. We're just going to glue that right on the bottom. And again, making sure that glue goes all the way to the edges. And pop that into place. And then this is smaller, so it's a little trickier to kind of smooth the glue out. So I'm just going to use my fingers in there, kind of pushing down in the middle so things don't shift around. And then using my other hand to smooth that glue out as best I can. Now we have our tray. We can bring our box back. And this tray, I'm going to kind of keep it in the middle right now. It's going to go to one side eventually. We're going to put another thing in here, but that is going to provide some support for this base. The bottom goes in with the agent's side up, and then the lid goes on. And our box is all ready to go, and we can start filling it up. To hold our agent's side of the story, we're going to need a series of file folders, which will sit in the top portion of the box. These are going to be filled with reports and other information that tell the tale from their point of view. There are 8 pages in this project. All of them are printed on cardstock. Backer paper 1 will need to be printed on the reverse side of everything. That is the tan paper background. So all 8 pages need that printed on the reverse side. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 2. For supplies, you'll need scissors to cut everything out. I like my liquid glue for this project. It's easier to handle, but you can use your glue stick if you need to. And I've used vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. As always, I have my bone folder to smooth everything down, and I used my scoreboard to do the creases on these long, narrow pieces. So the first thing we're going to do is organize everything into little folder piles. So it's really just matching colors and numbers. So we've got file 1, it has U01, and we're going to match that up with the back piece that also has U01 on it. We're going to match it with the orange spine piece and then our labels here. And I'm going to put everything else to the side, and let's go ahead and assemble this. So you're going to fold this in half, give it a good crease directly in half as neatly as possible. And then I'm going to grab my glue, and we're going to glue this back panel on. So I've got this opened up. We're gluing to the inside planar side of the spine. And I'm putting glue along one half. And then I'm just going to take this file folder piece that has the print on it, print side up, and I'm going to tuck that right in there into the crease. I'm going to line this up, top and bottom, make sure everything is even, make sure I'm pushed into the crease, and then I'm going to fold over and press down. Now we're going to repeat that and add the cover to the front. So I'm going to flip this so I can get glue on because I'm a righty. If you are a lefty, your experience may be different. And I'm going to put glue along that other tab. And I'm going to put this back the correct way, tuck my panel in like so, and then press that down. So these are kind of pushed in. When you open this up, there will be a small gap all the way down the middle. That's normal, but that is our file folder. And then we can add the labels. I left this on here so you would know which backer went with which front with the numbers. And then we're just going to cover that up. These fancier labels look much better, I think, instead of just printed onto the page. Gives it a little more character and dimension. So we're just going to cover that right up with this label and then flip it and place another label on the back. I'll just pop that on there. So there we go. And you're just going to repeat that for each one of these. So you're going to end up with 4 file folders. So very quickly, I will assemble one more because this is a very short segment. Just in case anybody's confused, we've got U02, U02, same with our labels, and then we've matched the strip to the background. Got our strip folded in half, and I am just going to pop that glue right in there. Grab the back panel with the numbers on it. Push that all the way into the corner. Line that up top and bottom. Fold flat. Firm up that crease. Get that glue smoothed out. Turn. Glue the other side of the tab, our little spine piece. Turn it back, and then we're going to tuck that folder cover in. Make sure that is also lined up top and bottom, nice and neat. Pushed into the crease, and then press down. Open it up. We've got a small gap down the middle. This is normal. And then we can add our labels. There we go. Flip over, and same thing on the back. I thought it would be a nice touch that these weren't just blank on the back. I turned it over and I was disappointed. Just felt like it needed a label. There we go. And then once you complete them all, they will stack up and you'll have a full set of file folders. And bringing my box over, these will fit into the top portion of the box. Now it's time to jump right into our story. We're going to start off with a little journal entry written by Walter and then meet up with our agents at the BEA. We're meeting a new agent, Rowan Kitteridge, who will be assisting Agent Hale on this case. There are 6 pages in this project, 4 on cardstock and 2 are on paper. Backer paper 2 will need to be printed on the reverse side of the page with this large tabbed panel on it, as well as the page with the BEA agent cards. So that is in this pattern here. The paper pages include the one with this letter on it, all of Walter's portraits, and this paperwork filed by Agent Hale and Agent Kitteridge. And this page with the paperwork has the option of having backer paper 1 printed on the other side. That's just to finish it off, and it's totally optional. And if you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 3. For supplies, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, a liquid glue with a fine point, and your optional glue stick. I've used vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. And I've got my bone folder to firm up those creases, and I used my scoreboard for scoring all of my folds. So I'm going to slide everything kind of off to the side, and I'm going to get some of these portraits off camera. They mess with the focus. And let's bring our box over with all of our folders. So the first thing we want to do is grab folder 1. This is the folder we're going to be working with. We're going to keep that out, and then I'm going to pull out the folders and our secret bottom. And we're going to add Walter's first journal entry, which looks like this. It has the date at the top. This one is printed on the back. And you can go ahead and read this now. We'll always read Walter's entry at the beginning of each part, and then we'll get into what the agents are doing. And Walter's entries are just going to go in order, or if you're feeling a little more chaotic, not in order. They're just going to go in the tray here in the bottom. And then we can put the bottom and the file folders back in and put this off to the side. All right, and I've made a little more room here, and I've got my case file number 1. And let's go ahead and open that up. And we're going to start by adding this tabbed panel to it. You're going to need to crease this right along the tab, like so. And then we're going to glue this in on the right-hand page of our file folder. So it's just going to sit in there like that. The tab is going to fold under. So I'm going to grab my liquid glue, and on the brown part of this tab, I'm going to run my glue along the tab. So all along here, I'm just putting kind of a thin coating of glue. It might look like I'm scribbling a whole bunch, but really I'm just lightly squeezing the bottle and just having a little bit of glue come out. And you're probably going to get your fingers a little sticky, but we're going to center this up. You want to center it top and bottom. And then we're going to push this as far into this little crease as we can, and then fold this shut and give it a press. Just like that. So now we've added a page to the inside of our file folder so that we can get a couple of spreads in here. Now on the facing page, we've got this large kind of a desk blotter piece, and that's just going to center up top and bottom and go as far into the crease as it can, just like this page did. And we're going to glue this all the way down. This is going to be glued entirely down. A glue stick would be great for this. I do like my liquid glue because I can slide things around a bit. So that lets me make adjustments. But if you put enough glue stick on, it does allow you to do that as well. So I'm just going to center that up, try to line it up with the other one. And then I'm going to fold this shut. And if I'm catching, and I felt like mine was catching, I'm going to slide it out just a little. You can line it up right on the edge of this outside panel because you'll have that little gap down the middle. And then give that another fold. And it should kind of nudge things into place. Flip my page out of the way. And then I'm going to give that a smooth. And I'm just going to check. These are going to puff up just a little bit. I wanted them to look like nice big fat case files whenever they were in the box. But you can make little adjustments. You do have room to play with here. So if you want to go out a little more to avoid some of that bulk, that's totally fine. Next, we've got a couple of corner pieces, and we're going to attach these as little tuck spots onto each corner. So you definitely need your liquid glue for this. You're going to need to make a thin line of glue. I'm going to hold the angled piece, and then I'm going to put that thin line of glue right along the 90-degree edge, the little corner here. And it doesn't really matter which one you put where. I think they are identical. I'm just going to pop that into this corner, lining up the print. And same thing with the bottom one. And I'll just pop that into that corner. And I am going to give that a close and press just because I'm curious. Flip that back, and that hasn't moved, so everything looks like it's in pretty good shape. Now I'm going to put this to the side so it can start to dry, and we have a couple of pieces here that has a pocket and an envelope. For the pocket, you just need to fold all of the tabs in. There are 3 brown tabs, so on the sides, and then fold up. So those are your folds. And this is going to go in at kind of a jaunty angle right about here. We need to leave room for this little wanted tag. I'm going to fold that in half. We are going to fold that in half and glue it back to back. So you can use that if you need to figure out placement of this pocket. I'm just going to slide that in there, close those up, and then if you need to eyeball it, this is just kind of a little angle. And I'm going to keep the tab inside the file folder. Now, if you want it to stick out, if you like how that looks, or you want it to be up like this, you can definitely use some creative license and do something like that. I'm going to put mine right here like this. I'm going to try not to cover up this part of the text because I'd like it to be readable, but my positioning is about right there if I'm going to be super nitpicky. So pulling that card out, I'm going to put glue on the tabs here. And I like to do the side tabs folded down first, and then the bottom tab folds up. It helps a little to keep things from catching. And then let's see if I can find that sweet spot again. So kind of coming down to the text, this corner is touching the edge. And that should leave me some room. And then of course we've got place Walter here. So you're going to get all of your Walter portraits, and find your Walter that you used for Cursed Antiquities. And for me, that is this Walter. So he's going to go right there. So I'm going to grab my glue, put some glue on the back, and get Walter into place where he belongs. And now we need to do the envelope. I'm going to move Walter's face out of the camera. And let's do this envelope. So we've got 2 tabs that are going to fold over. And then there are 2 creases on either side of this tan box. So this is going to fold up. This folds down to make the envelope. And it has a blank back. And then we're just going to put glue on those 2 tabs. And fold that up. And I'm going to fold this down and give it a good crease. And let's bring back our file folder journal. And this is going to go at a fun angle. We are covering up some of the text here. The important part for our storytelling is up here at the top. I just ran extra text down so that you had some fudge room on where you want to put this. If you want to put it straight, if you want to put it in an angle. I'm going to place mine in an angle right about here. I'm not going to get too close to the crease because this is bulky. And this is going to be a pocket. So we only want to glue 3 sides, left, right, and bottom. Like so. Making sure that we've got the flap at the top here. And then I'm just going to tuck this in here. And let's put this to the side to dry. Next, let's go ahead and glue together these 2 cards. We have a little callback to Ashcraft's Antiquities, the shop from Cursed Antiquities. This is just going to fold in half, lining up the corners and those tabs. And I'm going to put glue on there. And same thing on this one. We have the wanted information for Walter Ashcraft. And just folded in half, lined up, and glued together. Next, we're going to make the agent IDs. And I wanted these to be like the IDs they would wear at the office, where they would hang with like a clip or something like that. So we have one for Agent Hale and one for Agent Rowan Kitteridge. And we also have some reflections from each of them to put on the back. So I'm going to set those reflections to the side. And we need to pick out portraits. So I'm going to pick the same portrait I used for Agent Hale in Cursed Antiquities. I'll just snip that out. There we go. And then I'm going to pick a portrait for Agent Rowan Kitteridge. I think I'd like to do a gentleman for this one. And I'm going to try to get to him. He's in the middle here. There we go. And you can choose anybody you want for your Agent Kitteridge. And I like a little distress ink on mine, so I'm going to hit the edges really quickly with just whatever's left on my dauber here. There we go. And then making sure I have the right portrait with the right card. They have their names on them. I'm going to glue their portrait in the center of the square. There we go. Oops. Holding on to Agent Kitteridge. All right, then I'm going to flip these over. Let's do one at a time so we don't get confused. I've got here, it says J. Hale. This little reflection is going to go right on the back of Agent Hale's ID. Quick scribble of glue. Pop that into place. And then we're going to do the same for Agent Kitteridge. There we go. And now we can bring back our file. And we have our first report, first entry. I'd like to think that these are written by Agent Hale, who's very organized and would probably enjoy paperwork as a historian, archivist, as well as a field investigator. So this little report is going to pop right into those tucks. Make sure your tucks are dry first. And then the agent IDs are going to go in right on top of that. On the other side, we're going to grab the tag that says wanted. That's going to slide in here into the pocket with Walter's portrait. I have a little rogue glue there. And then we have the shop. That is going to tuck into this pocket here behind the envelope. Our last two pieces of ephemera are a business card from Cursed Antiquities, a little piece of evidence left over from Cursed Antiquities, and we have a letter about how they're going to work together, both agents, a little orders assignment notice, and that's going to fold in half and slide down into this envelope. And that's everything for part 3. In part 4, we're going to check in with Walter, who has made an interesting discovery, and then meet up with Agents Hale and Kitteridge as they follow up on a lead. There are 7 pages in this project. 6 are on cardstock, 1 on paper. The paper page has our agent's report on it. That will be this page here. And you have the option of printing backer paper 1 on this page if you want to. Backer paper 3, which is this kind of crisscross, crazy, manic pattern, it needs to be printed on the reverse side of the page with Walter's items on it. So that is these 2 pieces, his journal entry, this information about the midnight lens, and this pocket piece. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked part 4. For supplies, you will need scissors to cut everything out, your liquid glue with a fine point, and your optional glue stick. I've used my vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything, and I'll be using my bone folder and my scoreboard to make all of my creases. So I'm going to move most of this to the side. We do have a bunch of portraits here as well. I just didn't have them on camera because their faces does strange things. So we're going to start with Walter's items. You can read Walter's journal entry now if you like. And then we've got some items that he has collected. So let's start with the midnight lens. This is going to go together to form a box. So I've got folds. It's going to fold along all of these areas. So this is the side panel. We're going to fold on either side of that, as well as the 2 tabs on either side. We've got the same thing on the other side. We've got this tab with glue on it. And we're going to fold on either side of this side panel, as well as these 2 small tabs. And then on either end, we have another small side panel and a large tab. And this is going to form a box. So kind of similar to what we did with our supports inside the box, we're going to glue that tab, the glue tab, right underneath the back panel of the box, this plain wood piece. So I'm going to grab my liquid glue and put some on my tab that says glue on it. And then I'm just going to bring this back panel over and then line it up so the edge of the back panel is along the edge of the side, if that makes sense. And then the corners and everything are matched up so that this is nice and square. And then you're going to want to let this dry for just a moment. And once it's dry, you can glue these tabs in if you want. I'm just going to put the box together. You're just going to tuck those 2 little side flaps in and then tuck in the end, and you'll have a little box containing our magnifying glass. Now, Walter has typed up a description of the midnight lens, so we can read about that. It has a description, what abilities it has, and where it came from. So we have this card here, and then we have this little pocket to put it in. So there are 2 tabs, one on either side. Those are going to fold in. And then the rest of this is going to fold up in half. And I like to kind of push so that these line up at the top. Sometimes those tabs want to keep things from going up that extra little tiny bit. So I lined mine up on the corners and then press down at the bottom. And all you need to do is put some glue on each tab. And then press down the front panel. And we've made a little pocket that the card can go down inside. There we go. Like that. And now we're going to gather up Walter's things. And let's pull case file 1 out. That's if you've put everything away already, if you're in between projects. If you still have case file 1 out, then you're good to go. And I'm going to open up my secret bottom. In my tray, I'm going to take out Walter's first journal entry, and just to be nice and neat, they do have dates, so you can sort them out later if you need to. And I'm going to stack those together and place those in the tray. I can also put my little pocket in the tray. You can put it to the side for now, that's fine. And then the box with the magnifying glass will go in as well. And we've got our divider, put that back in, our extra folders. And now we can work on the agents part of the story. So I'm going to open up file folder 1. And this is the space we're going to be working in. So let's start with these 2 panels. First, we have this kind of lined panel with some text on it. And this is going to go right here to cover up our tab. It should line up at the top and bottom. And this is going to glue all the way down. So you can use your glue stick for this if you want. I'm just going to get a good amount of glue on this. Move this panel, and I'm just going to, I've got glue everywhere. And I am just going to place this in, and then like we usually do, I'm going to give that a fold just to make sure this isn't pushed too far into the crease and causing a malfunction, a little binding up of things. We want things to close. We want a fluffy folder, but we also want it to close. So we have that in place. And then this panel here is going to go just a little south of centered. So we want to leave a little bit less room underneath of it than we do with the top, because we've got this piece here. This is going to go in as a top tuck up here. So you can see it's going to cover some of the top of this print. You can see how that kind of comes together. So I'm going to glue this all the way down. I'm going to center it left and right. All right, and then we've got our tuck. So we'll go ahead and put that in. You're going to need your liquid glue because we want to do a thin line of glue on this. So left, right, and top on this one, because it is a top tuck. Things are going to go up into it. So make sure you have it turned the right way. Up one side, across the top of the image, and down the other side. Nice thin line of glue. And then I'm going to place this on the page, centered, or maybe kind of towards the left-hand side a little bit. Press that down. Make sure it's not above my page. Sticking up on the other side. Give this a close and a press. And then I'm going to flip this and make sure I don't have any white peeking over at the top, and it looks pretty good. Next, we have a couple of pockets to add to the right-hand side. We've got a map of the city that's been updated with Mr. Brackett's office, and we're going to update the map on the inside of the box lid as well at the end of this project. So keep that in mind. It's a tiny little label, don't lose it. So we've got our dark pocket. The little angled bit goes to the top left, and I'm just going to flip that over, and we're going to glue down the long side across the bottom, nice thin line of glue, And then just up to the angle. We're not going to glue the angled part down. We want to leave that. And then I'm going to place this to the bottom of the stripe panel and then line it up with the right-hand edge. And then I'm going to give that a close. That's always just to check and make sure that nothing is pushed into the corner. And then I've got a little glue seepage, so I'm going to remove that. And then we're going to repeat that for this pocket. So just flip it over, the angle also top left. Going to go down the side, across the bottom, and then just up to that angled bit. And then we'll just line this up with the previous pocket. There we go. And we have a little bit of text here. This is a callback to Walter's journal from Cursed Antiquities. So you can give that a little read if you like. And let's come back to the left-hand side. So what we're going to need for the left-hand side is a portrait to represent Mr. Brackett. And I'm going to go with this one. You can pick any one you like. There are a ton to choose from. Lots of interesting gentlemen. So it is up to you what he looks like. I'm also going to grab this little description card by Agent Hale. And we need the 3 embellishment pieces. These are kind of little clips, little bits and bobs we're going to add in. So I'm going to set those right here. And let's start by gluing down the portrait and then the little comment by Agent Hale. Let's do the portrait first. We're going to put some glue on the back of it and then just glue it down right about here. So it's going to be just under this little bit of the scale. It's going to overlap the border. I do have distress ink on the side of mine, but we want to make sure that this portrait shows when things are in this top tuck. So it's going to go right about there. And then we have Agent Hale's observation. That is going to go in right about here. Just above this line, it's going to go out into the print over here, and it's going to almost touch the portrait on that side. Placement does not have to be perfect, but I try to give clear instructions because I know some of us like it to be exactly the same. So right there. And now we can add a couple of these embellishments. Now, depending on the portrait you picked, you might like to put this clip this way. You might like to put the clip this way. I think I'm going to go this way, tall ways. And mine is, this one's a little dark for me. I'm going to go try to lighten that up for you guys after this. Make yours just a little brighter. I'm going to add a clip there. And then this little clip is going to go right here. Just a little embellishment to make things more exciting. There we go. And then since we're doing those two, we might as well add the last one. This one is just going to go in right here as if it's clipped over this striped paper. And I'm going to let it poke up just above that paper, like so. Now I'm going to put this to the side to dry. And let's work on our ephemera pieces. We have 3 pieces we need to assemble. These 2 are straightforward. We've got this obsidian room card that's just going to fold in half. Same with this comment from Agent Kitteridge. We have an observation and a little picture of the inside of Mr. Brackett's office. And then this one is another tabbed card. You're just going to fold that in half tall ways. It's talking about Old Town in the city of Marrowhaven. And line up those tabs and fold it in half. And then we're just going to glue these all back to back really quickly. And then if you want to, you can take the time to read all of these little observations now. You can wait till we finish building the spread. Totally up to you. I'm always interested to hear how you're reading these. So leave me a comment down below. Tell me if you construct the whole page and then read it, if you read each thing when you pick it up, how you go about working your way through this story. Always interested to know. There we go. So we have our 3 cards, and I'm going to bring back our journal. Make sure everything is dry before you start putting things in. So let's start by putting our report in the back pocket here. If this doesn't want to go down in, if it seems like it's getting caught, grab a bone folder or your scissors or a ruler and just kind of go back into that pocket and give it a little coaxing. Sometimes the glue smushes out and it seals the pocket up too much. So put our letter back here. And then inside the pocket, we're going to put our little card for the obsidian room and the old town description. Coming over here to the left, I'm going to put in the description of Brackett's office. Slide that up in there. And then we have a business card for him that is going to go up in here as well. Now, all we have left is this little label for Mr. Brackett's office. And we're going to add this to our map. I'm going to move Mr. Brackett's face out of the way. This is grabbing the camera's attention. And I have the inside of the box lid. So we're going to check our map over here, and we can see that Mr. Brackett's office is here just above the Old Town label. So I'm going to glue that into the lid and add this location to our map. So just a little bit of glue. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to count the grids. I promise there's going to be room to place everything. There we go. So now we have that addition to our map on the inside of the lid. And that is it for part 4. In part 5, Walter is doing a little bit of research into the strange marking he found when he has to deal with some unexpected guests. As for our agents, they are checking out the Obsidian Room, a fancy supper club in the city's Promenade district. There are 8 pages in this project. 6 are on cardstock, 2 on paper. The paper pages has the agent's report on it, as well as the pages for the library book, which you can see here. You have the option of printing backer paper 1 on the back of the page with the agent's report if you want to. Backer paper 3 will need to be printed on the reverse side of the page with Walter's journal entry in it. That page also has the book cover. And backer paper 4 needs to be printed on the reverse side of the page with the large tabbed panel. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, look for the pages marked Part 5. For supplies, you will need scissors to cut everything out, your liquid glue with a fine point, and optional glue stick. I've put vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything, and I've used my bone folder and an optional scoreboard to do all of my creases. So let's make a little bit of room here, and we're going to start, as usual, with Walter's side of the story. So we're going to need all of the pieces to make the book. We've got the book cover, and you can go ahead and fold this in half so that we can fill it up with pages. We also need the book pages, this little book plate from the Holloway Library, and then we have an extra panel here to go on the inside of the book. We also have Walter's journal entry, which you can read right now if you want to. So to assemble the book, we're going to take the pages and we need to give these a fold. So we're going to actually fold the right-hand page over right here towards the middle. We're going to line it up with the line here between the first and second pages. Then we're going to flip this and we're going to fold the other page over to the back side so that you have something that looks like this. And then we're going to glue this first page where it says Baroness Adelaide Graymore. We're going to glue that to the second page here. So I'm going to grab my glue and go ahead and glue these together. And you can see I've put a little bit of ink along that crease because it could show a little whenever you open the book. So I've gone ahead and done that. Let's give this a quick smooth. So now we have something that looks like this. And when we insert it into the book, we'll have a turnable page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So we're just going to take this blank part. We've got our cover. It's been folded just directly in half, match up the corners. And I'm going to put some glue on this blank page. Maybe a little extra along this edge to make sure it stays down. And then I'm just going to insert this. I'm going to lift up. I'm going to push this into the crease and then line it up top and bottom. And then let's fold this over and give it a press to make sure our book is going to close properly. So there we have this in place. Now we're going to grab this panel. This is going to glue to the inside cover of the book. I'm going to center it up on the page and try to leave a little space here just to make sure things don't bind up. So some glue on that. I'm just going to pop this in. This does kind of have an up and a down. You'll see it's lighter at the top, darker at the bottom. If you flip it though, it really, it's not a big deal. If you put it in the other way, it's totally up to you. And then give that a close. And finally, our book plate is going to go in over top of that to finish off our book. Now this is a great place to add a little something extra if you want to add some string or something like that to keep the book closed. Got a little extra glue here. Make sure you don't accidentally glue your book shut. And you can go ahead and read this if you want. It has some background information on the marking that Walter found, which he's going to find very interesting. And I'm going to grab his journal entry and the book. I'm going to bring my box over. Got my case files out of the way. And I'm going to add the book and his journal entry to the tray. So I've gone ahead and put these in order by date. I'm going to pop those in. I'm going to put his research back in. I've got the book. I'm going to put that in the tray as well. And then put this to the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab case file number 2. That is the gray one. And open that up and we can start working on the agent's part of the story. All right, so we're going to start by building the page portion of this. So we're going to go with the large tabbed panel first. We're going to fold that tab over, and then we're going to glue that down center top and bottom on the right hand side here. So I'm going to grab my glue, and just like we did in the first one, put that glue along the brown tab. And I'm just going to insert this right along the edge of this back panel of the folder. Let's try to center that as best I can. And then, of course, give this a little close and a press just to make sure things are lining up well. On the other side, we're going to actually have to build this. We need to put these together because we've got the background, and this can go either way. I'm going to go this way. And we also have a flip. For the flip, we're going to fold this over along the line between the two panels so that you have something that looks like this. And then we're going to fold this tab over and make sure there's no buckling, nothing is sticking up. Give everything a good press down. And then let's glue the back of this large panel to the back of the other large panel. I'm just going to stick some glue in here. There we go. And now we're going to glue that tab behind the other panel. So I'm just going to take and on the white side of this tab, place some glue along here. And I did put some distress ink along this. If you missed that, if you forgot, no problem. Let your glue dry first and then just give it a little bend backwards and get some ink in there after the fact. So I'm just going to put this on the tab and then I'm going to press this down nice and flat and give it a smooth. So now we have something that looks like this. You can always just kind of pop it this way after it dries and hit that edge with some ink if you need to. There's usually always a way to get around little mistakes like that. All right, so I'm going to bring my folder back and we're going to glue this panel in on the left-hand side. So just cover the back of this in glue. We're going to glue the whole thing down. There we go. And then try to center it top and bottom and line it up along the edge of that front of the file folder. There we go. And I'm going to give this a smooth and then give it a fold and press. Now let's pop that back open. And we need to add a tuck pocket. So this is going to go in right along here. This side is going to be open and we're going to glue on the top and bottom, the short sides, and then this bejeweled side. So I'm just going to flip this over. Thin line of glue all around on those three sides. And then we're just going to line it up with the panel under it. And mine has gotten all kinds of crooked. There we go. One thing I like about this Beacon Fabri-Tac glue is that it kind of just rolls off. It'll ball up when you rub it and roll off. So it doesn't just smear around and give me problems. There we go. And again, making sure you don't glue things shut. Close everything up. Give it a press. So let's add some embellishments to this. I'm going to give this a good crease and I'm going to bring over, we've got this hand holding the drink, as well as this sign for the obsidian room. We're going to glue the sign right up here in this space at the top of the flip. There we go. Put that in there as straight as possible. And then this little drink tag, I'm going to glue it all the way down here. I like how that looks. It's building some layers. You can give it a little angle as well. You are going to cover up some of the people. I don't think that's a big deal. Just make sure it's not coming out over the edge here or else it'll catch whenever you flip this open. So now I'm liking that jaunty angle more than the straight angle I had originally planned. So I'm going to ignore my own directions for myself. And I'm going to give that a nice little angle while making sure it's still on the page. There we go. Now let's flip this open, and this is the fun part. We get to decide what Seraphine Lorne, the owner of the Obsidian Room, looks like. If you read the agent's report, she is described as appearing young to be running such an establishment, though I wonder exactly, where the line for that is. So I'm going to go with this woman right here. Her portrait is going to go here, but there are a bunch of them for you to choose from. Large variety. So select anyone that you like. And we're going to place her portrait right here over that decorative element on the page. Next, I'm grabbing our agent's report as well as these two little clips. The agent's report is going to attach here as kind of a flip up element. And then the clip is going to go here. So we need to position this so that the clip can go just a little above. I like that layered texture. It makes everything feel more dimensional. And then we want this to be able to flip up and you can see what is underneath. So I'm just going to glue across the top of this, just a line of glue. And I'm going to kind of center it left and right, following this line a bit. And then going right above where it says the Obsidian Room on the map. I'm going to pop that in there. And then our clip can go right on the top of that. Like so. Just bringing some dimension and life to this. And you can see we do have another map and the Obsidian Room is noted on the map. So we'll be adding that to our box lid here shortly. And now back over here to Seraphine's portrait. We need a little clip here. I'm going to turn mine kind of a fun angle. You can put yours on however you like, depending on which portrait you picked. The exact placement might vary just a little bit. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to move this to the side to dry, and let's talk about these two ephemera cards. We've got observations from Agents Hale and Kitteridge. Both cards are just going to fold directly in half, super easy. And we're just going to glue these back to back like so. Same thing here. The other side. So now we have these two cute ephemera cards, and I'm going to bring this back over. All that we have left is our little label for the map. We have a fun little menu for the Obsidian Room. It is a supper club, so obviously it needs a menu. I'm going to tuck that in here. Make sure your pocket is dry before you put anything inside. And then we've got the agent's cards. Those will go in here as well. And now we can put this off to the side and add the label to the box. So let's bring our box lid over. I have my little label for the Obsidian Room. There we go. And we can see that it is located right about here on the map. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my little label on and add the Obsidian Room to the map inside the box lid, if I can get a hold of it. It is quite small. I apologize if you're having trouble with these itty bitty pieces. There was not really a good way to make them larger. There we go. And that is it for part 5. In part 6, Walter has added another item to his collection and seems to be cooking up a new plan. As for our agents, they have been asked to look into the disappearance of 2 prominent members of Marrowhaven Society. There are 5 pages in this project. 4 of them are on cardstock, 1 is on paper. Backer paper 1 will need to be printed on the reverse side of the page with the file folder on it, and backer paper 3 needs to be on the reverse of the page with Walter's journal entry, the information about the siren's comb, and the little pocket folder. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then just look for the pages marked Part 6. For supplies, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, your liquid glue, and your optional glue stick. I've put vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything, and I'm using my bone folder and my optional scoreboard to do all of my creases. I'm also using 1 or 2 of these little binder clips to secure Walter's journal entries. It's a little hard to get them in and out of the tray, so this is a solution that's going to work for me. If you don't have these and don't want to purchase them, then you can try just tying some string around them to make them easier to handle. You're also going to need all of the portraits that we've printed out so far. You'll need 1 woman and 2 gentlemen here in this project. So I'm going to put things to the side, and let's start with Walter's part of the story. So we're going to need the Siren's Comb card. We've got his journal entry, the little pocket holder for the card, for the info card, and then this box for the comb. And this is going to be just like the magnifying glass. So we've got creases on either side of this little side panel. So we've got our blue backing, side panel folds there. Same on the other side, our glue tab folding here and here. We're going to fold these in and then fold these in like so. And then all of our little tabs fold as, fold as well. So there's all of our tabs are going to fold over so that we can make that box again. And let's go ahead and assemble this. So let's make that box shape. We're just going to glue the back of the box over the tab that says glue. And I know, again, this is a little dark. I wanted to keep Walter's side of things kind of dark and moody. I don't do too many dark, moody colors, and I really wanted to do that to show the difference between the 2 sides of the story. So we're just going to line this up. You want to bring it right to the edge. I just use my finger as a stop. And then make sure it's lined up left and right. And then you can just tuck these little tabs in and build the box. Now we have our hair comb. And now we need to build our little pocket for the Siren's comb card. So again, we've got these 2 tabs on the side that are going to fold in. And then this part is going to fold up to form the pocket. Again, lining up these top corners. Again, give everything a good press to firm that up. And then we're just going to glue along those tabs. There we go. And press those down. And then once this is dry, you can pop your Siren's comb card down inside, like so. And then we'll bring everything over and put them into Walter's part of the box. And I'm going to pull everything out here. So I've got my 2 item cards now, so I'll place those in. And these are going to kind of travel across. They have little tabs are kind of overlapping there, which is fun. And I'm going to get Walter's entries. I'm going to put those in order. And let's see with these little binder clips if I want to do 1 or 2. I think I want to use, this came with kind of silver and gold-ish colors. Let's do 1 and see how that looks. So these are just like tiny little binder clips that kind of pop on top of things. I think they're so cute. Let's try 2. 1 on each side. Make it even. I think I like 1 better. Let's do 1 right there. That way it's not hiding the date or anything. You can kind of flip through them slightly, but I'm going to use that to organize his journal entries a little better. And then I can grab that clip and get them all out. You can tie something around these or just leave them loose. It's up to you. And then I'm going to put the book back in and add the comb to his part of the box. Now that we have Walter's portion of the story out of the way, let's catch up with our agents. So we're going to be working here in case file number 2. We're going to flip to the back portion of that. And let's start with some of our more structural elements. So we've got a panel here to go on the right-hand side that's going to cover up our tab. And this is a statement from Mrs. Evermere. This is Thomas, one of the men who's gone missing, his wife. So her statement is going to go on this side. And I'm just going to glue this all the way down. There we go. I'm going to give that a smooth and then press that down just to make sure everything is where it should be. And on the opposite side, we have a couple of different things going on. We're going to glue this journal entry straight down, and that is going to get one of these clips on it. This little rectangular clip is going to go here. And because this is our flipping page, we want to make sure we keep that well onto the page. You can put it anywhere, however you like it to line up with the print on the other side. Yours might have fallen slightly different than mine, depending on your printer. But I'm going to glue this paper, the agent's report, directly down. I'm going to glue it all the way down because it's going to kind of tuck under the pocket at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to place that centered left and right. This is the pocket. Pocket's going to go down here. You should have plenty of room where it's not going to cover up any text. And then this fun little clip is going to go here. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. It's a little lower than I would like. And then since we've got it out, I'll go ahead and add the clip. I'm going to put mine right there. Now the pocket with our map, we've got Mr. Pembroke and Mr. Evermere's homes. Those are going to be added to our map here at the end. And this pocket is going to go at the bottom of this page. So we want to glue left, right, and bottom. with that super thin line of glue. There we go. And I'm going to line that up with the bottom of the page. I might go just above so I don't risk it peeking over from the other side of the page. And then just a little room on the left. And it should have a little room on the right as well. I sized this one down a bit. You can always turn your page and look and see if you have any white there, and I do not. Next, we're going to do something fun. There's not much of this in this one. We did this a lot in Willow of Whispers. We're going to tear some paper. So we want this to kind of nestle right into this corner. So we want to preserve these two straight edges, but we don't want to cover up the statement text here, and we don't want it to go all the way to the side. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of messing it up. It's just paper. You can't really ruin it. Let's start by just tearing, I don't know, if you've got it lined up with the corner and the bottom, let's just tear. You see where it says late? I'm just going to tear straight down, like so. So now you have something that kind of looks like this. And now we want to reveal this text and kind of create an interesting shape. We've got something that's going to go on top of this. So this is just setting kind of a backdrop. So I'm going to start at this corner, and I want this to be torn at the top. So I'm going to tear just a little. And then I'm going to kind of create an angle that goes all the way down to the other corner. And now we've created this scrappy, fun little piece of paper that's going to create some dimension on our page. And for me, I'm going to add distress ink to mine because I like how that looks. And I like to be a little heavy-handed. I've also re-inked my pad, and it is very strong right now, and I'm kind of into it. So you can do yours however you like, or not at all. And then we're going to just glue this directly down to the page here. I wanted to add in just a little bit of fun. Throw caution to the wind to this spread. So lining up. There we go. And I'll just smooth that down. Now we need to pick a picture of Thomas's wife, Missy. She's mentioned in the report, and we have a statement from her here. So you can decide what this couple looks like. You're going to need to choose one for Thomas Evermere and for his wife, Missy. And I had not decided yet. Maybe I'm going to go with that one. And then I'll figure out Thomas here whenever I get to Thomas. So I'm going to place her right here in the empty spot. Oops, a little bit of glue. And I forgot to ink her, but that's okay. I will go on. And then we have this fun little clip, and that is going to go right here. Again, based on the portrait you chose, you might need to change this positioning just a little, but I think for most of them, that position should work okay. So I'm going to put that right over. And you can make this up higher so it kind of breaks this plane. That's fine too. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it looks like it's clipped over the whole top of the page. There we go. And now let's put this to the side to dry and start working on our ephemera. So there are two things we need to build, this little card holder and the file folder. The file folder is pretty straightforward. We're going to fold this over and match these corners up. It'll have the little urgent tab plain on the back. And then the front of it is going to get this case file card. It is just slightly smaller. If you're having trouble fitting it, you cut by hand and things aren't fitting right, you can trim a little extra off of the edges of this card and it'll fit a little better for you. So that is no problem. I'm just going to glue this on the front. And then open this up, and we have a place to put both of our missing gentlemen. And it looks like, I think I'm going to go with these two. I can't decide. That's what I have on top, and I inked up. Now I'm trying to make the perfect couple with Thomas and Missy. And I'm gonna go with these two. So this is going to be Thomas. I'm just here to show you. You decide what Thomas and Missy look like. I think my Thomas and Missy are a dashing couple. All right, and here is Edgar. And Edgar and Thomas are good friends and run in the same social circles. So now we have a little case file on them and a little information about each of them. And we can work on the case for this card. Let's see. We've got a little corner piece. We have this special invitation piece and then the actual card. Let's put this card together real quick so it can dry. This is just going to fold in half and it has a little message on the back. All dark and moody and mysterious. And we'll just glue that back to back to make a double-sided card. And we'll leave that to dry. Now we need to make the card holder. So we're going to do, this is similar to the book page we did. We're going to fold this up so that it meets this line here between the dark and the inner print, just like this. And then flip it and fold this up so it meets the top edge. Make sure this doesn't go past this because this has to open up like this on the page. And if it overhangs at the top, it is going to catch. So you can even kind of put your thumb here and test it and see if it's catching. I'm going to put a little distress ink along here just to hide that white paper. It looks like I missed that when I was preparing things. And we're going to glue this to this. We're just gluing the dark panel down. And I'm going to make sure I get a good little line of glue at the top. We don't want that to kind of flap around. All right, so now we have something that looks like this. We need to attach this little corner piece here. So I'm just going to glue these two sides, the right angle sides, and we're going to hold on to the angle, the 45 degree angle. Very thin line of glue on those. And this is going to go just down into the corner like this. And then up here, we're going to put a special invitation. So glue here, like so. And now let's bring back our file folder. And this is going to glue in here, but we need to leave a little room because we have an evidence label. Excuse me, Missy, there we go, our little evidence label. And that is going to go right here. So we can glue that down first if you need to use that as a guide. It probably would make some sense. You can kind of eyeball things up, decide where you want it to all go. Evidence, and then we're just going to glue this white back down to the page. And that's gluing all the way down. Make sure you don't cover up any of the text from Mrs. Evermere's statement. And I'm just trying to fix my little corner. It has slid and I saw it peeking out there. I'm going to give that a press. Now, the file folder with our missing persons is going to tuck in right here. And then once this is dry, your card can tuck in here to this little wallet. And then we're going to flip that down. And you might need to give that an extra press just to kind of keep it close. Now all we have left to do is add the homes of Mr. Pembroke and Mr. Evermere to the map. And you can see they're listed here. We've got the promenade and their homes. And those are going to go right about here on the map. So let's go ahead and add those to the inside of the lid. There we go. One more. And again, you don't have to be exacting with this, just kind of get in the area. There is not going to be a danger of you putting it in the wrong spot and not having room for something else. So that is it now for part 6. In part 7, Walter receives another item for his collection and has taken a trip into the city for supplies. However, he's also found out some things that have made him pretty unhappy. In fact, our agents, through a little undercover work, are about to find out the same truth about the Umbral Society. There are 9 pages in this project, 6 on cardstock, 3 on paper. The paper pages have the agent's report. There are 2 pages for the report in this part. It also has both agents' personal notes, and there is a page with the hooded cloak and the shelf on it. You have the option of printing backer paper 1 on the reverse side of the page with the agent's report on it, but again, that's totally optional. Backer paper 3 will need to be printed on the reverse side of the page with Walter's things on it. And backer paper 5 needs to be printed on the reverse side of the page with the tabbed panel. That's this one. And here is what the backer paper looks like. And that page will also have these tarot cards on it. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, just look for the ones marked Part 7. For supplies, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, liquid glue with a fine point, and your optional glue stick. I've used that vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. And as usual, I'm using my bone folder and my scoreboard to make all my creases. We have a little twist this time. This is the only part where I recommend reading the agent's part before Walter's part. I feel like the story flows a little better that way. It's a little more exciting, but if you read Walter's part first, it's okay. It's not really ruining anything. So I'm going to go ahead and move a lot of these items off to the side, and we're just going to keep a bunch of these larger panels. So I am working with these 4 large panels, the one with the door, this background panel, this one here with the Ouija, the talking board, and then this one here as well. And these are going to go into the 3rd case file. That's the blue one, and it's got 03 as the case number. And let's go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to start with the tabbed panel. Again, we need to fold that tab under and give it a good crease. And that's going to insert on this right-hand side, centered on the page. And let me just grab my glue, and I'm going to glue along this brown tab. Ooh, there's a lot of glue. And I'm just going to place that centered, top and bottom, right along the edge of this back panel. I'm going to push it all the way in and then give a little fold and press just to be sure everything is going to close okay. Now the left-hand side is a little more complicated. We've got kind of a mini waterfall going on, so we need to assemble these 2 panels first. So let's start with a door panel. This has a tab as well as a crease that needs to happen right here. So I'm going to fold that tab over first to the back. And then I'm just going to fold that pattern piece up into that crease. And this will be familiar from a lot of the other projects. And we're just making sure everything lies flat. So there is a line right between those 2 panels. I'm folding that tab all the way over, making sure everything is flat. And then I'm just going to glue these back to back. And we're going to do something similar with this one, but it's a little bit different. So we have this tab here, no angles. This is still a tab, but we're going to fold along here. This is going to serve as the flipping point, and then crease along here and just fold over. I have inked along this edge. I should ink along this edge as well. I missed that one. But I have inked along this edge because it could show whenever you're flipping through the panels. So we're going to fold over And then I just want to make sure there's no catching. So I'm just going to put my fingers on this. It's going to glue straight down to the background panel, and then this will just flip this way. So I'll glue that down. So let's just glue these backs together. I'm going to give that a smooth, and then I'm going to test and make sure nothing is catching. That seems pretty good. We want to make sure nothing has gotten into that crease to cause problems when you flip it up. Now we need to put these three pieces together. I've got my ink on. I went ahead and put a little bit along there. And we're going to take this panel with the Ouija board on it, and we're going to line up the left-hand side with this green panel, and we're just going to glue it straight down. So I'm going to put some glue along here. I'm going to try to make sure I get good coverage. And I'm going to line it up, top, bottom, left-hand side, and give that a press. So now we have one flip here. I'm just going to fold this back this way. And I can see I have some glue coming out, so I'm going to clean that up. Next, we're going to take the panel with the door on it, and this is going to hook over the entire thing. So it's going to go right onto the back, so that we've got one flip here and then one flip here. So just hook it over, line it up side to side. I'm going to give that a flip and glue this tab down. And then let's check and make sure. So you can see you will have a little bit of a gap. But now we have two flips. I'm going to bring this back, my case file, and we're just going to glue this in on the left-hand side. We're gluing it all the way down. So glue around the edges. And then I'm going to line that up with the edge of the front of the file folder and try to get it center, top, and bottom. There we go. Now let's start adding a couple more structural pieces and kind of an embellishment. I'm going to go with this paper page with the cards and the cloak on it, and let's open all the way up. And this is going to center on this back panel in the green area. And we're just going to glue this all the way down. I'm just going to center that up as best I can. Next, I'm going to grab this bookcase piece, and that is going to go on the back of this panel, centered up. So just a nice coating of glue on the back of that. And then we'll center it up on the back of our flip. And then flipping that over, we're going to do the same thing with this cloak piece. That is going to center on this other flip panel. And this is a great time to use your glue stick if you have one and you want to use it, to get a nice coating of glue on those. There we go. Finally, we have this pocket. This pocket has two tabs. We're going to fold both of these back to the back side, and this is going to fit right here on the second flip. I'm just going to get some glue on here. Pop that into place. I'm just putting it all the way into the corner up against the edge. Next, let's work with our agent's report. We have 2 pages this time, and both of these pages are going to glue over our image here of our society members around the table. So these are going to glue together. So I'm going to put a line of glue across the top of this one. You can be a little generous with it. I've left you a lot of room, but don't go all the way down to the key because you'll want to be able to flip this up. And then we're going to glue this down right on the panel. It's going to fit within that frame. And again, I'm just going to glue the very top. We want this to be able to flip up and reveal the image underneath. We want to build layers. And I'm just going to kind of line that up with the top of the print here. We're going to have a couple of clips that go up here like so, and these will need to fit onto the page. You don't want to go above because they're white on the back and they'll show, though you could put them up and put some ink on the back, that kind of thing. So that's up to you. So just make sure your clips are going to fit okay on the page. You can always move things down just a little if you want some more room. And then we have our agent's observations. These are going to go in here and they're going to overlap like this. We're going to kind of build some layers in. You can leave them loose so they're a little bit fluttery, add some texture and dimension. I'm going to put Agent Hales up towards the top here. And I'll go ahead and just do glue on the top. There's not really anything to see when you lift these up, and we're going to add embellishments to the top. We'll do that next. But we're just covering up these kind of empty spaces in the background. So you can still see the cloak, you can still see the hand holding the cards. We want to make sure we stay on the panel. I am gluing right down over part of Agent Hale's commentary, but there's still some looseness here and a little bit of texture. So let's go ahead and add those embellishments. There are 4 little clips, and the first one is this kind of curved one. I'm going to place that one here at the top of Agent Hale's note. And then I have this longer one. That one is going to go here for Agent Kitteridge. And you can play with the placement on these. You can kind of move them around. If you find something that's a little more pleasing for you, absolutely use that placement. And then, like I said before, we have these 2 clips. I thought it would be fun to do a couple of clips. I'm going to put both of those on the top of our slightly larger report. So here's one and here's the other. An exact placement doesn't matter too much. I'm keeping mine below the top of the page, so when you turn the page, they're not sticking up. But if you want them to hang over, again, you can put some distress ink on the back, and that will fix the kind of aesthetic issue. So now that we have everything kind of glued down, let's finish up the ephemera pieces for our pocket. I'm going to put this to the side. We have this auction bookmark piece. This is fine on its own. That's already done. And we've got 3 tarot cards, and these are all going to get little society backers on them, just for a little extra flair. So making sure everything is right side up. I just thought having some cards would be fun here. And I could do a better job gluing these on. Do as I say, not as I do. Glue around your edges. That was a little bit sloppy. There we go, and one more. We're right side up. So around the edges. And then in the middle. And we've got our 3 cards. Make sure that these are dry and don't have any kind of glue seepage or anything like that before you try and put them in your pocket. We've got our auction piece. That's going to go down into the pocket, as well as these 3 cards. Those are also going to tuck into the pocket. Just a fun little interactive piece. Here is our door. And that's it for the agent side of the story. I recommend reading this now, and then we're going to jump to Walter's part. All right, so we have our items for Walter, and these are going to look a little bit familiar now. So let's start with the item. We have this little gardening trowel, and that has the same folds as we have been doing. So you've got folds on either side of each edge. like so, on all four sides. And then you're going to fold all of those tabs down as well. So you have the small tabs on either long side and then the large tabs on the short sides. We're going to form that box shape and then put glue on the glue tab. I'm just going to fold that over, line up right along the edge. And I am just aggressive with the glue on this one. I've got glue everywhere today. There we go. So line up that edge, line up the corner so everything is nice and square, and then I'm just going to fold those tabs in and close the box up. Now you can glue these tabs in if they want to pop out. That's totally fine. I'm just going to leave mine as is. Of course I say that and I pushed it in too far. There we go. So there I have my cursed gardening trowel. And we have Walter's journal entry, which you can go ahead and read now if you like. And then the description card for our new magic item, the vine binder. Here is the holder for that description card. We're going to fold those tabs over, get some glue on them, and then fold the bottom up. You should know the drill by now. We're very slowly building an expanding file with these. So this is all going to come together into one little expanding file at the end, which is going to be pretty cool. So let your glue dry, and you can put your card down into the pocket. And then I'm going to bring over my box and can place Walter's items right here into the tray. So we now have 3 items. There we go. And you can see their little tabs are starting to stack up. We can add our gardening trowel in here. It should fit nicely. And I'll put my little book back in, and I've got Walter's notes here. I'm going to make sure that these are in order: 12, 14, 17, 20, 21. And I have my little binder clip I added last time just to hold those together. And I'm going to put those in the tray as well. And that's it for part 7. In part 8, auction day is here. First, we catch up with Walter, who has interest only in his plans, and those plans include a specially crafted box to hold all of his items. The agents, on the other hand, are going to be filling a box of their own, but for different reasons. There are 9 pages in this project, 7 on cardstock, 2 on paper. The paper pages have the agent's report, both of the agent's personal notes, as well as a decorative piece with handcuffs on it. Backer paper 1 can be printed on the back of the report page if you want. Backer paper 3 is going to be printed on the reverse side of Walter's page. So the one with this card, his journal entry, and then the little pocket. For supplies, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, your liquid glue with a fine point, and your optional glue stick. I used vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. I have my bone folder and my scoreboard for making all of my creases. And in this segment, I'm using some Velcro dots. This is going to add an interactive element, but if you don't want to do it, it's optional, and you can opt to glue the pieces in place instead. We're going to start off with Walter's side of the story. I have all of the pieces for his special box, as well as a new item, and then his usual little journal entry and card. So let's start with the item and the card. Let's make the card sleeve. We're just going to fold those tabs in like we have been and fold up and then glue that in place. I'm just going to place that glue right up the tabs. Oops. And get glue all over my fingers and smooth that into place. And then once that's dry, I can put the card for the mourner's bell inside. And then we have the bell itself. We're shaping another box. So again, those creases go on either side of all of these side panels, one on each side. And then you're just going to fold those 4 small tabs down. Once you have everything creased, we're going to create a box like this, and then put glue on the glue tab. Overlap the back of the box, line everything up all nice and neat. And then I'm just going to tuck those ends in. And now I have my box with my bill in it. So I'm going to place all of these items to the side, and let's build the special box that Walter has worked so hard on. This is going to look pretty familiar. We've got the 4 sides of the box. We have 2 panels for the bottom of the box. That is this solitary square with the design on it. And then the printed background without this kind of burned etching in it. So we want the plain one for the bottom of the box. We're going to put the 2 pieces for the lid off to the side. Let's start by creasing the pieces for the side of the box. This is just like building the larger box and the tray. So we're going to fold on either side, and then the tabs in around the blue panel in the center. So you have the tab, the overlap, and again, you'll want to fold those so that everything folds totally flat. That's just going to give you a better finish. And I've put that distress ink around where all of the tabs are, just to kind of hide that white paper once this goes together. So we have both of those. And then the other 2 sides just have 2 folds, one on either side of that center piece. The tab is slightly darker. I tried to put a lighter line along there for you. So if you're not sure exactly where the sides of that are, there are angles on the tab. So just look for the corners of those angles as a little guide if you're having trouble seeing the line. I have put ink over mine, so it has disappeared. So we have that. And same thing for the second one. So we have all our sides creased. We're going to glue the pattern panel down to the blue panel on these sides with the tabs, just the sides with the tabs. Let's glue those down. Same thing for the second one. Everybody's popping up. All right. And let's grab the patterned piece for the inside of our box. Now this is perfectly square. We just need to put things on opposite sides. So let's go ahead and put these tabbed panels on the left and the right. I haven't labeled them left, right, top, bottom. It's not as important for this box. I guess one could argue it wasn't super important for the other box either. Though we did have a directional lid print on that. So it makes it a little easier to know what direction everything is. And we're just going to put that tab right under like so. I'm going to repeat that on the other side, gluing these tabs right underneath the inside bottom of the box. We're lining this up. And these just have to stand up to a 90-degree angle. You don't have to do that full fold over that we've done before. It should be fine. Because you folded everything over when you creased it, your fit should be good. And now we have our other 2 pieces, same thing. I've inked along that tab, and I'm just going to glue the tab underneath. I'm going to crease these little blue tabs real quickly. Give them a sharp crease and get them out of the way at the same time. All right, so I have my tabless sides, and I guess it's not tabless, it has this long tab. I think you know what I mean. And I'm just going to pop that underneath. And for this one, I am going to fold that over and then stand it up. Make sure it's centered. But you want to make sure there's room for that fold over and it's not buckling. And then same on the final side. Place that tab right underneath. Stand it up. Fold that in. And now we're ready to insert those tabs. So I'm going to stand up the sides with the small tabs. We're going to put glue on these side panels without the little tabs. Glue along one panel, glue up the side, up and over, and then check your corners. Make sure they are nice and sharp. Push those tabs all the way in. Same thing on the other side. Glue on that panel. Glue up the sides to grab those tabs. Up and over. And check your corners. And this one has jumped out on me. There we go. And then I'm going to give this all a nice crease with my bone folder. Now we have this little tray. This is perfectly square. It does not have an up, down, left, right, anything like that. So you don't have to worry about that. We're going to wait to put the bottom on because we need to attach the lid first. So let's go ahead and fold the lid. So we have two folds up here where we are going to fold right along this line here between the top and the front flap. And then we have this inside panel that's going to fold in. And then on the back side, we have a fold between the top of the lid and the side, and then this tab that's going to fold as well. So the first thing we need to do is the front of the box here with the lighter print and the front flap. We're going to fold that lighter print over and we're going to glue that down. This is the front flap of the box. And then I'm going to stand this up at a right angle and make sure everything is sitting properly. If anything is buckling, just kind of stand up at a right angle and give that a re-press to try and clean it up, sharpen everything up. This crease here between the lid and the back, I'm actually going to go back and forth just a little bit on this, not too much. This is our hinge. So if this has a nice sharp crease, it's going to perform a little better. And then we want to make sure we glue it really well as well. This is going to hook over and wrap around to the bottom of the box. So it's just going to fit on top like so. To make this a little easier to handle, let's go ahead and insert the inside of the lid. This is just going to glue down to the middle panel. Now this is not perfectly square because we needed to account for all of this extra cardstock that's happening. So make sure when you put this in that it's even on the sides. It just won't fit right. It'll be short on the edge if you have it the wrong way. Another way to tell is to look at these little angles in the texture and they should be going up and to the right. As long as they're going up and to the right, it doesn't really matter which way it's turned. And we're just going to go ahead and glue this right onto the inside lid of the box. So I'm going to go around my edges and then making sure I haven't turned it the wrong way. I'm going to go ahead and put that in place. And if you have a little overlap, if there's a little overhang, it's sticking out, you can fix that by trimming it off or putting some distress ink over it once it has dried a bit. So I'm just going to push mine all the way to one side. And just depending on how you cut it, you might just have a little itty bitty bit like that hanging over. So just push it all to one side and trim it off, or split the difference, center it up, and then it mostly disappears and a little bit of ink will get rid of that entirely. And I think I'm going to go that route actually instead of trimming it off. So I'm just going to center that up, and then I'm going to stand this up to my right angle to make sure that this is not impeding on that right angle. And now we're ready to attach this to the base of the box. So base of the box is square. This is going to go on top. And that tab is going to wrap around and go to the bottom. We are gluing both this back and this tab to the box. So I'm going to glue everything, and I want to make sure I get kind of a nice line of glue right up along here. And then a good amount of glue on the tab. This tab will be covered up by the bottom of the box. And I'm just going to put that into place. Make sure it's centered up. And then I'm going to use my bone folder. You can just use your finger and give this a good press down. And it's a good idea to really let this dry so it doesn't end up peeling away here. That way when you open and close your box, you'll just get it. It'll just be cleaner. If it pulls away, it's going to look a little bit messy whenever you open it up. So there's our lid. And then I'm just going to flip that over and we're going to put the bottom on. And there's not really, again, perfectly square. So there's not really a right or wrong way to put on the bottom. Do recommend getting a good bead of glue around the outside edge just to keep everything down, especially those corners. And let's pop that into place. I'm going to flip this and just do a little rub with my fingers since I can't fit my bone folder in here. Now, the final touch on this, it does not need to have a fastener. However, if you like, you can use 1 or 2 Velcro fasteners to keep this shut. Once you put it in the box, it should stay closed. It just snugs right down in there. But I'm just going to get my Velcro fasteners, stick them together, and let's do one. I'm going to do one in the center. And it's up to you where the clear, one is clear and one is white. So I always recommend if you have a white surface and a decorative surface that the clear goes on that decorative surface. So that would be right there. And the white goes on your lighter surface. And I'm going to line this up really well. And give that a press. And you can see it kind of disappears. It does blur our decorative element a bit, but now that should stay closed. And we have Walter's box. Now that the box is complete, we can start putting items inside of it. So I'm going to bring over my box and get my case files out of the way. We will be working in case file number 3 again here shortly. Pull out the secret bottom. We're going to a Walter's desk. And we can place items in our box. So I've got the bell, gardening trowel. You can place these in there however you want. They are a little bit of a puzzle piece. We have one final item to get, and it's going to go in that empty space. And then I'm going to just pop this right down in next to the tray. I have Walter's journal entry as well as this pocket tag. I'm just going to pull all of this out and get everything in order. Like so. I left things kind of awry last time I filmed a little footage. So there's our clip and got my book. And this is it for Walter's portion of part 8. Now let's work on the agents portion of part 8. I'm going to open our file folder. This is file number 3. It is blue. And let's go ahead and open that up. There are a lot of small fussy cut pieces in this. If you are afraid of fussy cutting and you don't have a cutting machine, I do have a fussy cutting tutorial that does include back-to-back fussy cuts. So I've provided mirror image fussy cuts that can be placed back-to-back. This is only necessary if you are going to use a little Velcro dot to stick these into their cases, and that way they can be removed and put back in. Otherwise, you can just use one of them. And when we put the crates in, you can just glue these down to the crates, and that is that. It's a completed project. So it's up to you if you want this to be a little more interactive, where you can take them in and out of the crate using the Velcro dot and they're finished on both sides, or if you want to do a single fussy cut and glue it in. So let's start with the structure pieces here. And the first thing we're going to do is place this panel in. This has got a template for us to put our crates on top of. There is a little more space at the top than there is at the bottom. In fact, I'm gonna grab my Sharpie here. I'm gonna write glue up here, and there will be the word glue on your paper whenever you get it. I make adjustments to this as I'm assembling them when I find things I don't like. So this panel is going to go glue at the top, and it is going to glue right in here on this page. We're going to go right over that tab. I'm going to go right around the edges. Like so. And then just line that up. And do our little fold. On the facing page, we're going to put this piece with the handcuffs. It's going to be a background paper. I'm going to glue that all the way down. There we go. Center that up on the page. Next, we have Agent Hale and Agent Kitterich's observations. Again, this is going to be similar to the last one. We're going to kind of puzzle these in around the other images. And I'm going to glue these just at the top again. I know Agent Hale, I'm putting Agent Hale at the top. Whichever one is at the top does get kind of pinned down. And then I'll place Agent Kitteridge here, making sure I am within the bounds of my page. And we have a couple of clips we're going to add. There's this little kind of squarish one and a little more decorative one. You can put these on however you like. I'm going to put one there and then one kind of like that, I think, right there. And then we have one more clip we're going to add in a moment. So get kind of a fun angle on this one, like that. And then our agent's report is going to go over this. And I'm going to glue this in at the corner so that this can be lifted up and you can see everything underneath of it. So I'm just putting glue right here on the back side, right where that little clip is going to go. This should be enough to hold it into place. I'm going to glue it in just above this background piece. And then my clip is going to go on top of it like that. It's going to snug right up into that corner like so. And then you'll be able to pull this up once it's dry and read the pages underneath of it. So we're going to leave that to dry. And let's work on this other side. So we have all of these crates to put our items in, and we're going to put a crate over top of each of these. Now, this is another way you could personalize this. If you want to make the crates come in and out entirely, that's fine as well. If you want to make them a little more higgledy-piggledy so that the design inside the chalk that's containing them doesn't go in the same direction and you want it to be a little more chaotic, you can do that as well. I'm going to put mine in very nice and neat. To me, Agent Hale is a very nice and neat person and wouldn't find joy in the chaos. So these are just going to go right over our squares. And you want to make sure you get them as close to directly over to those squares as possible, because we will be adding little labels. They're going to hang like so. So you want to make sure that there's enough room for that little gap for the label. And if it helps, you can put the labels on as you put the crates on. So it's going to start with 47A11. I'll go ahead and put that one on. And then from there, it is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm just going to line that up with the little nails and then center it. And then I'm going to add the next one. And I'll put label 12. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead, and since I've shown you a couple, it'll be a little faster if I put all of these down. We are building a temporary containment box for these items because they are potentially hazardous. Just like in Cursed Antiquities, these items have to go back to the Bureau, oops, and be researched, inspected. They need to figure out exactly what their curses or abilities are, find out what's up with them before they then lock them away for safekeeping. But this is how they are getting them from one point to another. And we have a log for this as well, which I think is pretty fun. All right. And then you're going to put in the rest of your labels. I recommend putting them in order. Again, you can put them not in order. Maybe Agent Kitteridge helped load these up and doesn't have quite the attention to detail as Agent Hale. It's up to you if you would like to mix it up a bit. There is a log that goes with this, and it says what each item is based on its item number. So we'll be matching those up here shortly. All right, I'm going to slide these off to the side to dry. I'm going to move the lid out of the way. And let's bring all of our items over. These are pretty straightforward. If you want to make them double-sided, you're just going to cut them out and glue them back to back. If you're fussy cutting by hand, sometimes it's easier to cut one identifying area and then another, stick them together, and then finish the cut. And I used a cutting machine as I went over in the beginning of this video. And I'm just going to glue all of these back to back because I'm going to Velcro them in so they can be removed and handled. I thought that would just be a fun interactive element for this. If you don't want to glue these back to back and you don't want to Velcro them in, then at this point you can look at this little ledger and start matching them up. So you can just glue each one into its appropriate box. So for example, the first item is the perfume bottle, and that's 47811. So that one is going to go right there. So let me glue the rest of these and then we'll go over the placement for these. All right, so I have all 6 of my items glued back to back. And since I'm doing the Velcro dots, I'm going to put the white part of the Velcro dot on the back of my item and the clear part in the box. I like the idea of that box staying dark and mysterious. So I'm actually going to prep these by just placing those Velcro dots right in the center of each box. And here is the last one. If you like the white part on the box and the clear on the item, that's fine too. That is totally up to you. And now we're going to match these items up. So let's go ahead and get our little page. And 74811 is our perfume bottle. So I'm just going to stick that right on the sticky part of my dot. Next, 12 is the deck of playing cards. So we have these. Oops. Let me go that way. Pop that in. 13 is the framed portrait. And that can go, I'm trying to pick the direction that I like the most. 14 is the fan. 15 is the porcelain bust. And then finally, we have the vase with the octopus tentacles on it. And now each of these items can be removed from the box and handled and put back in, which it's bringing me joy. So I love that. We have one last thing to do, and that is to take this lid to the box, and this is going to fold at the top along the line. And then we're just going to glue this paper panel to the back. I've put a heavy application of Distress ink onto the back of this. I can almost get that out. And that's just to help hide any imperfections around the edges. I'm going to glue well around the edges, give it a good swizzle in the middle. Now, when you put this on, you do need to make sure it's the right way around. It needs to be placed so that the text starts away from the tab. So you're going to line this up at the top and then smooth it on. Make sure this is the right way around, because then when you flip it up, it's going to be upside down. So you need to put it on upside down on the back. So don't do what I just did and put it on the wrong way around and then have to peel it off and put it back. And now we're ready to put this in place. We're just going to glue it in right at the tippy top so that we have a flap. Now, if you have Velcroed your items in, I recommend pulling them off really quickly, because the little bit of bulk is going to make this pop up off the page. So I'm just going to move these out of the way. And that way I can lay this down flat and let it dry. And now, with both Walter's and the agent's containment boxes complete, we are done with part 8. In part 9, Walter has finally completed his collection and is making plans for the final phase of his project. Meanwhile, at BEA headquarters, our agents are questioning Seraphine Lorne and the members of her secret society to try and determine where Walter Ashcroft is. There are 10 pages in this project, 5 are on cardstock and 5 on paper. Read the tops of them carefully, because the 5 that are on paper have a mix of things. We've got Walter's sketches, we have Seraphine Lorne's statement, as well as our agent's report. We have 2 pages that have these logs on them for the other members of the society that were detained. So take a look at all of those. There are several backer papers as well. Backer paper 1 needs to be printed on the back of the cardstock pages that have these green pieces on them for the expanding file folder. Backer paper 2 needs to go on the back of the tabbed panel. So it's the same print, just not slightly crooked on the other side. So backer 2 on this one, and then backer 3 is printed on the reverse of the page with Walter's items on it, his journal entry, the card, and then the pocket that the card goes in. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, look for the pages marked Part 9. For this project, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, liquid glue and your optional glue stick. I've put vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything, and I've used my bone folder plus my scoreboard to make all of my creases. So let's start with Walter's things, beginning with the card here for the Guardian's brooch. And we've got those tabs we need to fold in on the little pocket for this, and then we fold that up in half. This is our last one, and we're going to finish this expanding file right now as well. So we'll get to that in a moment. We're going to glue this and let it dry. There we go. And then let's put this off to the side. Next, let's grab these green pieces. These green pieces have small tabs to fold at each end. They're about 1/4 inch wide. They have stitching on them. They're dark. We're just going to fold those. There's the top and the bottom of this longer panel, the bottom of this slightly shorter and similar panel, and then we have the front top flap. It has one as well. And to assemble this, we're going to overlap the tabs and glue them together. So this piece does not really have an up and a down. You can do whatever is most visually appealing for you. I'm going to do it this way. And I'm going to grab this second slightly shorter panel, and I'm going to glue this one over top of the bottom tab on the other one. I'm going to grab my liquid glue. I'm going to give that a slightly better fold, and I'm just going to run that bead of glue right across the stitching here. And then overlapping those folds just gluing one tab directly over the other. So it's going to create this slightly U shape, a tall, skinny U shape. This is going to contain all of our file folders. So I've just butted them right up against each other. This goes all the way up inside. And I'm going to do the same thing for the top. So I'm going to hook that top flap right over top of the backing. Glue right across here. And hooking that over. I'm going to line that up left and right. And then I want to make sure this still folds over some because we want to make sure that we can close our flap. So we're going to have something that looks like this. It's a tall, skinny cover for all of our file folders. Next, let's start adding Walter sketches to the backs of all of the cards. So we have the Guardian's brooch, and he's had time now to complete all of his notes. We're going to add a sketch to the back of this. I'm going to glue that down. There we go. We have our brooch still to put together here. And now I've gotten all of the other cards from the box, and I'm going to go through and start matching them up. So we have the Midnight Lens, and that one is the magnifying glass. So I'm going to flip that over and glue the image of the magnifying glass to the back of the Midnight Lens card. You should glue yours on more carefully than I am. These are going to go in and out of the file folder, and you want to make sure that your edges aren't going to catch when you do that. And these pockets are universal, so they don't have to go into a certain order. Certain cards don't need to go in certain pockets. So it's okay to just kind of pull these all out. So since I have it on top, the mourner's bell, and here is our sketch of the bell. Little scribble here. I'm just going to center that on the back. The vine binder, that's going to be our little garden trowel. And you can put this one on either way, that's up to you. I like it this way. And finally, we have the siren's comb. And that is our hair comb, and we're just going to glue that sketch right to the back. So now these cards are feeling a little more complete. Let's put these to the side to dry really well before we go putting them back in their pockets. And let's grab the pockets themselves. We need all 5. And we're going to glue these together. We're going to stack them up. And these symbols are going to serve a purpose. That is where your glue is going to go. So I'm just going to put glue, pick any pocket, put glue on the symbol, and then neatly stack 2 pockets together. And then repeat that until you have all of them stacked up. So we're just gluing these together at the top. And I'm going to make sure they're all lined up, left, right. I've got them sitting on the table, and then I'm just going to press there where the glue is. And you're going to want to let this sit and just dry until your glue is set up enough it's not going to slide all over the place for the next part. Once that's dry enough, I'm going to bring over this little case, and we're going to insert this into the case. And we're going to glue in the same basic area. So there's no marking on the back here, but we're going to put our glue at the top here, and then flip it over and put our glue at the top here. And then just nestle this into the case. So I've got it all the way to the bottom. And then I've got that glue in the same spot in mine. And we do have one more piece to add to this. It is going to go on the inside and kind of reinforce this flap and add a decorative element. So we're just going to glue this right to the inside and then let this dry really well. In fact, let's put this to the side and leave it be and assemble our last item. So we've got our creases the same on this box. We've got our 4 sides, all of them with 2 creases, one on either side. And then those 4 little flaps. And we're going to fold this into a box. Put the glue on the glue panel. And just line that up nice and neat. And then finish assembling the box. And now we have the last item. And we can go ahead and bring Walter's box over and pop that open and put the last item inside of Walter's box. There we go. So they should fit nice and snug inside of there. So now this is dry and we're ready to add our cards back in, starting with the Midnight Lens. We're going to put that into the first slot and then working our way back. These tabs should layer, so the Siren's Comb is next. We've got the Vine Binder third, the Mourner's Bell, and finally the Guardian's Brooch. And we have completed Walter's research on the Greymoor collection. Now you can use a Velcro dot on this, and that is what I'm going to do. You can punch a hole and put a string and wrap that around to keep it closed. You can get clever with magnets. There's some different opportunities here for you to add some creativity. So here I'm just going to add my Velcro. And because everything is dark, I'm putting the white on this side and the clear on this one. So it'll be less obvious and less in my face whenever it's opened up. So it's a little more hidden there and it's not too bad there on that gold print. So that's it for the Greymoor collection. We have all of Walter's items in the box and we're ready to put his things away. So I've made a little mess of the tray in here. So I'm just going to tuck this box in. We've got the Greymoor collection goes in. There is the research book is going to go in, and then his latest journal entry is going to be secured with the clip and tuck in here as well. And now we're ready to move on to the agents part of the story. We'll be working in our final folder, folder 4. It is the red one, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I've got all my pieces over here, so we're going to need this panel as well as the panel with the tab. And let's start with the right-hand side first. We're going to fold that tab over behind and then glue it in. And then I'm just going to line that up along the left edge of the back panel of the folder and give that a press. And then on the left-hand side, we're going to insert this panel. It's just going to glue entirely down. Here we go. And now we've got our basic structure down. Next, we've got a couple of pieces of paper to add. We have a Seraphine Lorne's statement. That is going to go over here on the left-hand side, and we're going to attach it by this corner here so that this can be pulled up in this direction, very similar to what we did in the previous spread. And we're going to attach that with a clip as well. So I'm kind of just doing the corner of that. I used way more glue than I probably needed. And I want to make sure there's a nice little bit of blue around there, just for decorative purposes. And then on the facing page at about the same height, let me grab my clips here. So this clip is going to go here, and because this is an outside panel, this can break the plane and go all the way up towards the top if we want. It can sit right here. That's up to you. We're going to add a picture here, so we're not ready to put that in yet. On this side, I keep nudging my statement piece. This little clip is going to go here, and you may want to drop this down just a little. Grab this pocket, double check. We need to make sure our text is visible. So here we have all of the text visible. That pocket will be right here, and then that clip is going to go right here. So they are basically even at the top. And you can see how that clip kind of nestles in here in this empty space. So keeping this all in mind, this layout in mind, we're going to glue this in line with that. You can just do a line if you want. That's probably sufficient. I'm going to glue mine all the way down. Pretty much. I put a line at the top and then a few scribbles. I'm going to center left and right and then make this even with the statement on that side. And then we have our pocket. That's going to glue on 3 sides, left, right, and bottom with a thin line of glue. There we go. And I'm just putting it all the way to the outside, the right-hand edge, and all the way to the bottom. And again, make sure you can read this entire report and that the text isn't covered up. Now these have had a moment to set up, I'm going to go ahead and add those clips in. So I'm going to do one here. You could even go like this way if you wanted to give it a little bit of an angle. I kind of like that. It's a little askew. Though I don't know if Agent Hale would have an askew paperclip. So with that in mind, I'll go right there. And then before we can add this one, we need to find our portrait of Seraphine. So find the one that matches. Here is my matchy match. And that is going to go in this empty space here. And then the clip, you can clip down here, you can clip up here, you can angle this a little bit and do something like this. There's a lot of options for this. So be a little creative. Don't be afraid to add a little jaunty angle or do something a little different. I think I'm going to go like that. And then let's have it just barely hanging on by a thread. Have that clip go that way. Put it on an angle as well. So now we have her statement, which you can flip up, and there's a little bit of imagery to discover under there. We have our agent's report and a pocket. Next, we're going to put this to the side, and we have our file folder, as well as these 2 pages. We have 3 men and 3 women that are being questioned. They were all members of the society who were present at the auction, and we need to fold these in opposite manners. So this is similar to the book that we made before. I have the men. It doesn't matter which one you use, but if you want to just totally match up, I have the one with Julian, Lionel, and Tobias on it. And I'm going to fold the right panel over to meet this line. Then I'm going to flip it and fold over to meet this edge. Do not go over this edge because it'll catch whenever you open and close it. And then I'm going to glue these 2 back to back. So the left-hand side glues to the back of the middle panel. And then just so we avoid some confusion, I'm going to go ahead and bring this case file over. I'm going to flip it. This tab is going to be on the right-hand side, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this right into the case file. So it will open out this way. The glue goes on the white. And there we go. And we're just going to pop this in here. I'm going to center it or even go a little bit towards the outside. These are a little thicker. There's 2 of them in here. So once this is closed, it is going to be a little bulky. That is intentional. We like a big, thick case file. All right, so there are my gentlemen. And now for the ladies, we have to fold the other way. So the left panel is going to fold over to meet this line. And then we flip it, and the right hand panel is what's going to flip up. And then we glue the right hand panel to the back of the center panel. And that way these will open in opposite directions inside of the folder. So now we have this, and we'll come over and just glue this right into the folder. Get a little bit of glue on the back here. And again, we're going to head out towards the outside edge. So these will fold in, and then this will fold shut, and we have a nice fluffy case file. Now comes the fun part. You get to decide on portraits for all of these individuals. So I'm going to go through and pick out a few of mine. And here they are. Now remember, don't pick the same portraits. This is the same set of portraits, just smaller with a BEA logo on them. So don't reuse portraits that you used earlier. These are entirely new people. So pick some different ones. And then I'm just going to glue them onto each of these little framed areas. It's similar to our missing persons report. And you can read the description for each one of them. Some of them are going to be held for further questioning. Some of them were let go. They didn't have any items in their possession. So I kind of added little individual files for each of them. So I'm just gluing these in super quickly. Make sure you glue yours in well. Things will hold up really well if you put glue around all the edges for everything, especially if you have younger people playing with these, going through these, exploring them. And then one last little touch, we have this label that needs to go right here on the tab. There we go. And then you're going to want to let this dry really well so it doesn't get glued to itself whenever you close it. And then we're going to bring our file, our large file over, and this goes right inside of the pocket. And this is it for part 9, and we're ready for the grand finale. We have reached the final part of our story, and our agents have finally caught up with Walter Ashcroft. Everything is on the line. Will Walter's creation work? There are 6 pages in this project. 4 are on cardstock, 2 are on paper. The paper pages include the agent's report as well as the page with the 2 decorative panels on them. Here we go, the 2 decorative panels. Backer paper 1 can be printed on the reverse of the agent's reports if you like. Backer paper 2 will need to be printed on the reverse side of the page with the rings on them as well as these BEA cards. And backer paper 5 should be printed, there it is, on the reverse side of this really big panel here. So that is our kind of dark, moody print. If you're not sure which pages are for this project, then look for the pages marked Part 10. And for the last time, for supplies, you'll need scissors to cut everything out, liquid glue with a fine point and an optional glue stick, and I have used vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. I also used my bone folder and my scoreboard to make all of my folds. So the very first thing we're going to do is add Walter's hideout to our map. This is the last location we are adding to the map. We have our little Walter's hideout label. There it is. And you can see on this piece of ephemera, it is right all the way up in the top corner. So right here in the box. And I'm going to grab my glue and just stick a little glue on that. There we go. And pop that into place. Now we've completed our box lid map. And now it's time to check in with Walter. We have one last journal entry for him. You can go ahead and read that now, as well as his ring. Now, I haven't cut this little inside bit of the ring out. You don't have to. I probably won't. If you do, it's probably easier to do it once the two pieces are together. So we're going to glue these back to back. I'm just going to get a quick little layer of glue there, and I'm going to glue these back to back. We have Walter's ring. And then I'm going to put these into his section of the box. So here we go. Our final little additions, his ring and the last journal entry. And that is it for that portion of the box. And now we can work on the agents. So we have file number 4, and we're going to flip to that last section of file 4. And let me move some things out of the way here. The first thing we're going to do is build out the right side of the file. So we have a large scene here that's going to pull out so we can finally see where Walter has been this entire time. We've seen his notes, but we weren't sure where he was, what his surroundings were like, and now we're finally getting to see that. So we have one panel, this is a plain panel, and then we have this larger panel that's going to have a fold right down through here. There's a light line through here. It goes down right along just to the left of this window divider. You should be able to see it. I'll make sure that it is visible. I've inked over some of my things, so it doesn't always show up. And then we have a tab over here. So we're going to fold our tab both directions because this is going to accordion out. And then we're going to fold this panel to the back this way. I'm going to get this plain panel and put it face down. You can see where the lines would connect, so you know that you have it on the right side and the room is right side up and all of that. And we're just going to fold this tab over and glue it down. Now I've made that kind of a dark black there. You can see it better. And I will carefully, without getting anything on my report, glue that tab down. And then we have something that looks like this. This is going to glue in on the right side of the report, and it's just going to cover that tab up. It's going to line up top and bottom with this other page. So keeping this folded, we're just going to glue this blank back here. I'm going to go around all the edges. Little swizzle of glue here. And very carefully, without making a mess, hopefully, I am going to place that right on the page. And we're going to definitely do that fold over and make sure that everything is going to lay nicely shut whenever this is closed. So now we have a large pullout of Walter's workspace. If your panel is wanting to pop up a bunch like mine is, you can fold it back and forth a couple of times. And that'll usually get it broken in a little bit so it will lay a bit flatter. So there we go. Chase that around. Next, let's do these two decorative panels. So on the left-hand side, we have the picture of our garden trowel. That is going to go here. It's just kind of the bottom portion of the page. The exact placement doesn't matter too much. I'm not quite centering it because we're going to glue a report to the top of the page and then lift it up. Doing a lot of like peekaboos in this one. So this report is a double decker and it will be here and then this will be right under. So I'm actually going to slide that down just a little bit. And then those can go right here. And then we have a little lift up that we can see later. Then I'm going to flip this panel over. And right here, centered on this panel, you can fold this under if you need to. Centered up on here, we're going to place this background. We're gluing this down entirely. There we go. right in the center of the page. And then I'm going to pull this out, and on this little rectangle, that is where this panel goes. The map showing the location and then the outside of the building. And this also is going to glue all the way down. And I'm just going to center that up on the panel. Now we're going to add a couple of embellishments to this side. We have a tab, Walter Ashcroft, Secret Hideout. You can put this either way. I'm going to put Secret Hideout on this side. This is just going to pinch over. And I'm going to place it so it's kind of between this chandelier and the chair. So I'm not covering up anything really important on that image. So this just folds right in half. I've got the Walter Ashcroft side up. And we're going to glue this and pinch it right over the page. There we go. And that will overlap this image probably just a little bit on the other side. Here, we're going to add, this is a little callback to the beginning. We've got these corners again. And I'm going to place those in the top left and the bottom right. And these are going to be little tuck spaces. We're just going to put a thin line of glue on those right angles to create our tuck. So we hold on to the 45. And I'm going to line it up with that background. You could get creative and kind of offset it somehow or do something a little different with it. Creativity is fully supported here. You can do whatever you want. It is your project. Now we have those in. Let's let this dry and let's put together our agent cards. So we have two little BEA backers, and then we have a final observation of the space that they find Walter in here from Agents Hale and Kitteridge. And we're just going to center those up on each card. There we go. And we'll do the other one. And I'm going to let these dry before putting them in. If this is dry enough and ready to be worked on, we're going to flip it back the other way. And I'm just going to extend it all the way out instead of trying to layer it on top of itself. And we will start on the left and just work our way across doing the embellishments. So on the left-hand side, we have the 2-page report from our agents, and we've done something similar to this before. We're going to glue this top report page on top of the other one. Just going to put a line of glue and then layer those two up. And then flipping it over, I'm going to glue, because we have a little extra space there, I'm going to glue about 1 inch. And then I'm going to place this so there's room for a clip. So we have this clip here that is going to go right across the top, and I'm going to add that right now. You can give it an angle if you want. You can kind of move it around, find a place that you like, put it at the corner, anything you want. Make sure that you can still lift this up and peek underneath though. And I'm just going to put mine across like this. Next, we're going to start adding Walter's notes. This first note says, "The cathedral suits me, quiet apart from the noise inside my head." That one is going to go to the top of this panel. So I want these to feel a little scrappy. They are on cardstock, but don't glue them down all the way. Give them a line of glue at the top. And then give this an angle with room to place clips. So I'm going to put mine right here. And then I'm going to grab this little decorative jeweled piece that is going to go here. Like this. And then this longer one is going to go here. And you can obviously mix these up. You can do different things with them. This is just where I've decided to put them. I think they look quite nice, but you can change this if you want to. Now let's move over to the next panel. I'm going to fold this one back so you can see a little better. This one says, tell Lauren the buyers will have their artifacts soon enough. This is going to go here, and I'm going to give that one kind of a tilt that way. And again, just a glue at the top. Give it a little tilt. And then I'm going to go with these two clips. This one is going to go here and that one there. They don't need to make sense. Walter doesn't always make sense. He sometimes seems like he has it together, but he might not be as together as he appears to be, or at least as he thinks he is. And folding this out, we have one more little scrap, and I'm going to give that an angle. Make sure it doesn't go over this crease here. This is our last scrap. It's going to go here, and then my clip will go right here. Oops. If I can hold on to it. There we go. So now we've added embellishments all across the top, all of Walter's notes. Now for the finishing touch, I'm going to accordion this in and flip over, and we're going to add our agent's last observations and then finish with their report. And that is the end of the Umbral Society. If you'd like to share your completed project, you can head over to the Facebook group and share images or video of your box kit. If you enjoyed this project and would like more, then look in the description down below for links to these kits. Frostbound Forest is a similar style with a story told through a journal accompanied by a craft project to go along with each entry. Gilded Gear Marketplace and Brightwand Academy are exploration kits, which take you on a little tour of a steampunk marketplace and a magic school. If you enjoy junk journals, then both of these kits also have companion journal kits, each with a complete story. Thank you so much for going on this little adventure with me, and I hope we can go on another one soon. See you next time.